Meow. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome to season 2 of the Teacup for One movie club. My name is Matt and I have 2 degrees, and this is our first regular type marathon for the year. This is exciting. So we wrapped up the Oscar movie marathon just under a month ago, and now we are back. And if you saw the thumbnail, you probably know the next month is going to be all about Alice in Wonderland. So excited. So last year, we did an entire month of Peter Pan. The year before that, we did an entire month of Wizard of Oz. So we're just cycling our way through different variations of the story of like, take this helpless child, strip them of their parents and security, and throw them into a fantastical wasteland of chaos. So I'm excited to discuss all of these Alice in Wonderland adaptations over the next month. For tonight, we are starting with the movie that probably introduced a large number of us to the story, the Disney version of Alice in Wonderland, specifically the Disney animated classic from the 50s, featuring one of the greatest Disney felines, the Cheshire Cat. We love him. Speaking of cats, let's see who we have in the chat today. It's my cat, Sabrina. Hello, Sabrina. Always a pleasure. Eliza, always a pleasure. Vince, not a cat, but happy to see ya. And Martha, my mother. Fantastic. Yeah, that four. It all makes sense. Brilliant. All right, well, let's bring in our first guest for this evening. It's Lisa, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Lisa. Welcome. So, favorite cat. I mean, it has nothing to do with Alice in Wonderland, but I'm talking about cats now.
Oh, cat. Okay, I think my favorite cat would be one of my friend's cats. This is not a celebrity cat or anything, but the cat's name was Cheese Whiz, and it was like a decrepit cat. like the ear, like one of the ears was like completely like torn off, like so many scabs and scars. Went through its 9 lives and managed to live a very long life. So I think Cheese Whiz is my favorite cat. Yes.
Good job, Cheese Whiz. I love that for Cheese Whiz. Fantastic. Well, I'm excited to talk about Alice with you, especially the Disney Alice. I feel like we started off on a strong one, but like we'll get there. Let's bring in our next guest for this evening. It's Alex T-Tie, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Alex. So, Alex, favorite cat?
Well, those in the know that my full legal birthright is Christian Alexander T-Tie, which the acronym, the initials spell out cat.
Wow.
There we go. I am my own favorite cat.
Wait, you use your middle name as like your first name?
If you'd like, yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not that interesting. My parents, it's not a choice. It's my parents raised me calling me Alex. And when I asked them why they call me Alex when my name is Christian Alexander, they said that when I was but a wee lad, I responded better to Alex. That's the story.
Interesting. That is interesting.
You kind of chose it.
I mean, I don't believe the story, but
okay. I did ask you once if I could call you Chris, and you said no. So
I don't remember that happening.
Your exact response was, "I hate Chris."
No, I don't think that's true.
That's what okay. Well, thanks, Chris. Here we go. So let's talk about the Disney out. It's you, Alex. It's you. Yeah.
Hi, Matt.
Yeah, you're Chris now. Hi. So Vince's favorite cat is Garfield. Wonderful. So yeah, of course, we're talking about cats because Cheshire Cat is one of my top 3 favorite Disney cats. And of course, today we are discussing the Disney Alice in Wonderland. It's so good. No, I'm getting ahead of myself, though. So I typically like to start, as we all know, by asking about nostalgic memories of whatever we're watching, especially if it's a movie like this that presumably was present or on the perimeters of many people's childhoods. But since it's Alice in Wonderland month, I want to open it up and just start by your history with Alice in Wonderland, whether it's exclusive to the Disney version, your first exposure to the story. Yeah, so not necessarily specific to Disney, because we're going to talk about that for like the next hour or so, but Alice in Wonderland, just in general. When did you discover it? What did it mean to you? Did it freak you out? Did it give you nightmares? Like for me, I was introduced to it through the Disney film, but kind of simultaneous. Same story with Peter Pan, really. Disney was like the main one, but I had a lot of different versions of Alice available to watch, like recorded on VHS tapes. There was one from the 80s with Carol Channing singing about jam, which has become a cult favorite. Yeah, like Lisa, do you know the Jam song?
No, I don't.
It's like, oh my gosh, I'll show you after. Yeah, it's a meme. It's one of the first memes. It's so good. Jam,
Wow.
jam yesterday, but she's so unhinged and chaotic. It's ridiculous and amazing. So there's that version. There was this really trippy made for TV Alice in Wonderland from 1966. I looked it up. That I don't know how my parents managed to get it on VHS for me, like they taped it, but they did. And it's also kind of like this weird 60s fever dream with all these 1960s celebrities rounding out the cast. So it's kind of the equivalent of like if Jimmy Fallon was in a made for TV Alice movie now and it gave you nightmares. That's what the 60s version was. Plus there was Adventures in Wonderland, which was one of my favorite TV shows growing up. Like I've always loved Alice. It's been a staple for me forever. And looking back, I have no idea why. Like I couldn't tell you what the appeal is to this story or to these characters, but I know it's there. Like I've always loved all of the different characters, especially the Cheshire Cat. And I mean, even my whole channel is based indirectly around Alice in Wonderland. I didn't realize I liked it so much until recently. So yeah, I love the Mad Hatter. I love the Tea Party. Love all of it. So but I don't know why. So over next month, I'm excited to dig into that. But yeah, Lisa, how about you? Alice history.
Yeah, I think like you, Matt, I was exposed to it through Disney at first. I think I had like a Disney storybook that like featured Alice, and I remember liking Alice in Wonderland in that book more than the movie. And I don't know why I didn't like the movie until I rewatched it literally just an hour and a half ago. And it's because it scared me. I was like so freaked out by it. And like I think the biggest thing that I was freaked out by as a kid were the cards because they were flat and they were moving and like their whole dance number was very trippy for me as a young mind.
Yeah.
And I don't think like I understood it as a kid. Like even though there were cute animals and like really like silly looking animals, I didn't understand the journey Alice was going on as a kid. And why would I? Until high school when I think I read like the Jabberwocky and like started reading more of the source material for Alice. And in high school, I thought it was pretentious. And then I watched the Johnny Depp version that we're going to be watching in this month.
Yeah.
Around at that point too. Also thinking the whole story was pretentious and overdone. And somehow the universe gave me more Alice when I started teaching musical theater to kids in my early 20s. And I can't tell you how many times I have like directed children in Alice in Wonderland throughout my 20s. Like it is I know the story back and forth now because of it. And specifically the musical version for kids version. So there's a lot of like cute dance numbers and stuff, but I think like when I reached 26, I was like really done with Alice. And so because of the pandemic, I've been away from Alice for so long. So it feels like a nice return. And I'm kind of excited to reintroduce myself to it because I don't think it's pretentious anymore. I do still think it's overdone, but I think there is a lot to be taken away from the story, and it is a fun adventure now with a 28-year-old mind I am coming to the stories with. So that's my journey with Alice, and I can't wait to talk about it.
I'm excited to go on this journey with you.
Yeah.
That'll be it's interesting just saying it didn't make sense as a kid, which I agree with. I also feel like to me, my journey rewatching it now, it makes less sense to me as an adult. I feel like somehow the absurdity and the nonsensical quality of it makes sense to a child's mind. Because I mean, I'm not around kids all that often, but from what I remember having been one, I think that's just kind of reflective of what the imaginative process is. Like things don't always have to make sense. They just have to be. and whatever's going on in the moment, like when they're doing the caucus race at the beginning. That race has no rules, it has no purpose, but it just seems like it makes the most sense at the same time. And like that was my experience, I feel, imagining as a child. And that's what I try to go to when I'm trying to be creative as an adult. But there we are. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Let's jump into the comments before we go to Alex's answer. It's Nick Woods. He's from jolly old England. It's
Oi,
really
oi.
late there. Oi. Are you still there, Nick?
Cheerio.
Hello, governor. So apparently, Alex, you look like John Arbuckle,
Like the guy from
the guy from Garfield. I can see it.
I see
like
it.
Garfield's owner.
Yeah. The owner.
You're sporting the hair today.
Yeah, especially the hair.
Garfield.
Is it,
Yeah.
I don't think that's what he sounds like, is it?
Yeah, a
Does he
little
sound like
bit.
anything? Isn't Garfield a comic or a?
No, there's
Big
a movie.
cartoons.
Oh
There's
yeah,
a-
no, I know, but I don't know. Like if, yeah.
Yeah. What's Martha have to say? I remember where the movie came from. Francis' mother. Oh, Francis's mother had a bootleg of it. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I would have programmed it. Actually, I just discovered that really trippy 1966 Alice is on YouTube in its entirety. So I'll link everybody to it because it's so weird and I love it. So there we are. But Alex, what was your childhood connection to Alice in Wonderland, if any?
So I don't rightly recall Alice in Wonderland, like the classic Disney film. So I almost certainly saw it as a young lad, probably, in and around, probably maybe younger than like 10 years old. But yeah, just, in the classic, like whatever, like 6 to 10 range of watching Disney movies. I'm just guessing. I have no idea how old I was, but it wasn't a movie that I spent a lot of time with. So I want to say I maybe watched it twice, maybe once, and so I remembered very little of this film before rewatching it. What I recollected was I had a vague sense that it may I recollected scenes that I couldn't make sense of. I remembered that the movie seemed to have scenes that I couldn't make sense of, couldn't connect to a story. So that's what I kind of vaguely remembered before rewatching it. And then when I was rewatching it, I also started to get like a vague memory that the walrus scared me.
As he should in this movie.
Yeah. So I got this feeling, but when I rewatched it, he didn't. He was hilarious, and I had no fear. But
that's funny because I was watching it, being horrified by the walrus scene in this film, whilst at the same time thinking, I bet Alex is finding this hilarious for how
that was a great
dark
scene.
and twisted it is. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Those cute little clams. Yeah.
Oysters.
Yeah,
No.
oysters.
Rest in peace.
Oh my god, stop. These babies.
Hey,
They were so
happy.
cute.
They were happy. They were like, "La, la, 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 la,
They had
la."
no idea what was in
I know.
store.
They thought they were going for dinner. They didn't know they were
Ignorant.
going to be dinner.
Ignorance is bliss. They were happy in the end. They didn't know. We didn't, for all we know. Boop, lights off.
Oh my god.
No stuff.
Disney didn't have to make them that cute. That's my issue. Anyway, sorry. Go on, Alex. The walrus.
No.
scared
I
you.
think, yeah. So that was just to say that, like, that answers the question. That was my experience with Alice. Like, I guess otherwise, I didn't have a lot of other experiences with Alice in Wonderland. I was aware of like Alice Through the Looking Glass, I guess, as a novel, and there's that song in the 80s show that
what's it called?
Call out,
make you larger, and one will
Oh.
make you small.
Makes you small.
Yeah.
And the one that mother gives you.
You
Go ask
give
Alice.
me.
I don't know.
Is it called White Rabbit? I think it's called White Rabbit.
It's White Rabbit.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like that song and stuff. But yeah, otherwise not too. I haven't really interacted with other.
Ooh,
media.
interesting. So you're giving us a fresh perspective. Exciting. It's interesting you mentioned Alice Through the Looking Glass because like the two of them are so conflated, I feel, in adaptations where whoever's penning the adaptation will pick and choose characters and scenarios from both. Since like the original novel is Alice in Wonderland, and then the sequel is Alice Through the Looking Glass. And Alice Through the Looking Glass is where the Tweedles show up. I know that much. Like Tweedledum and Tweedledee are from Through the Looking Glass, as well as what?
Tweedledum and Tweedledee.
Tweedledee and Tweedledum? No, Tweedledum is first. Always.
Yeah, Tweedledee is first.
Oh, is Tweedledee first? Oh, yeah. Oh, you know why? It's because I played Tweedledum in my second ever production, like as an actor. So I'm biased.
Yeah, Dumb is the most important.
Dumb is the most important one.
It's
I know.
just alphabetically last.
Yeah, you're right. You're best for last. That's why. Yeah. That's what it is. So, yeah. No, and actually, it threw me watching this movie. Like I knew Tweedledee and Tweedledum were prominent parts of this film, but I'm so accustomed to them showing up at the end because in other adaptations that we'll even watch in this marathon, since they are from Through the Looking Glass, they normally show up towards the end before the Red Queen chaos happens, but I didn't expect them to show up so early. So that was a fun treat. But yeah, let's talk about the Disney version and what it was like just impressions having watched it now. For me, I didn't realize that I hadn't watched it in full in years, if not maybe close to 10 to 20 years. It's a movie that I'm just so aware of that I took for granted that I must watch it all the time, but I don't, evidently. So the first thing that threw me and shocked me was just how visually gorgeous it was, because I don't think I've ever watched it in high definition. The last time I watched it was probably on VHS. I don't even think I owned it on DVD when they started re-releasing on DVD and Blu-ray. So it was such a visual treat for the eye, just seeing how beautiful the animation was. And I think because of how Peter Pan went for me last year, I went in fully expecting the worst and expecting it won't hold up to my memory. There's going to be a lot of problematic stuff going on because it's Disney in the 50s, but I didn't see anything that was super bad. I only saw things that I thought were thoroughly delightful. And I feel like the pacing moves so well. And it has to be one of the most visually stunning Disney animated films ever, which I wasn't prepped for. Like just the way that they use the animation to bring the craziness to life, especially with the Cheshire Cat. I think that's just a feat of gorgeousness, the way that they use his tail to make him disappear and then he comes back. It's so good. And the use of color, especially at the beginning, like just moving through light and through shadow, and me just having a moment of realizing, oh my gosh, like they actually had to pick the perfect darker shade of yellow to differentiate. And the amount of work and artistry in that, I think, is stunning. And I just think the pacing is so good. The character designs are so much fun, and the performances from the voice performances are impeccable, especially Catherine Beaumont carrying the movie as Alice. I always take for granted that Wendy is her more prominent role, but she's so good. I loved it. Lisa, what did you think?
Yeah, I haven't seen it since I was a kid, on VHS as well. And I love a good hour and 15-minute movie, guys.
Yes.
I love it, especially when it's well paced like this. I love a nice condensed story that's just to the point. I forgot how many characters there were. I forgot that there was a lizard when she's
Bill.
I forgot all about Bill.
I love Bill.
Forgot about Bill. I forgot about the dog who sweeps the path and then she starts crying. I forgot all about that. Just so many hilarious characters. Just not even if they have dialogue or not, just the visuals of the characters are hilarious. I love all the the writing utensil birds and the tool birds. It's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, I think it it holds up for being a 1950s movies because it's so visually beautiful. And I don't know why I haven't watched it since I was a kid. So I'm happy I rewatched it now. I'm not upset that I spent an hour watching it.
Nor am I. And I plan to just rewatch it for pure enjoyment. Eliza, my cat's actually here, and she's she's trying to get out of the room, but the door is closed, and now I think she's going back under the bed. Eliza, come be on the show. She doesn't want to be on the show.
Okay.
Maybe she will. If I would go get her, but bad things happen when you try to get Eliza to do stuff.
Okay.
It has to be your choice. Yeah. Alex, what were your thoughts watching the Disney version recently as an adult?
So like Lisa, I watched it today, and I'm a little bit sleep deprived, so I was kind of having micro
Oh no.
sleeps.
I think that's the perfect way to watch Alice.
Um, yeah. So I,
Well,
I
the second most perfect way.
yeah, yeah. I did write down psychedelic in one of my notes, but
Good.
yeah, I echo a lot of the stuff that you said in terms of the visual of the film. Yeah, watching it like in, I don't know if it is in 4K, but I watched it on a 4K screen and it was
Okay.
like very sharp. So I want to say that it was being upresed, but past like HD. But yeah, it was a beautiful movie visually. The animation, the colors, yeah, everything. Like I consistently liked what I saw. I would say there were things that I noticed that like aged the movie. You could like you can tell it's an old animated film, as it were, but it didn't like hurt the film. It wasn't.
Like
It
what?
wasn't.
I'm curious.
Well, so I mean, like the frame rate, right? You could like whenever the characters kind of moved, you could very clearly you could clearly see or imagine the process of hand drawing each frame, and you could see that they weren't like they weren't 60 frames or I don't even
60.
or 24.
This isn't an
frames.
Avatar movie.
Yeah, or 24 frames.
Yeah.
There were probably what I don't know what the standard is for
I
animation.
feel like it is 24, but I want to look it up now. So no, keep talking.
Yeah, look it
doing
up.
research.
I'd be surprised if they actually drew 24 frames. Like they showed 24 hand-drawn frames a second. But anyway, and then there was just like even like looking at like water, specifically at the beginning of the movie, the stream that Alice is nearby. Like it doesn't look bad by any means. It's just you can kind of see what they did. Like they had a lot of static scenery and then just very kind of limited animated lines that created this visual experience of seeing the water moving. But again, it was not like real water, and it wasn't like a more modern animation. And even actually in the movie, when she goes into the Wonderland and she's in the stormy seas and with the walrus and all that kind of stuff, the water there is actually totally different, and it's much more animated. I don't know why, but it's interesting. It's interesting contrast. But anyway,
it's 24 or seemingly. All
the movie, I'm sure the movie runs at 24 frames, but
but like it was seemingly was animated at 24 frames per second.
Yeah, but like, does that mean that there were 24 hand-drawn frames? Okay,
that's why the movie's only an hour and 15 minutes, probably. Okay. Yeah.
But anyway,
when Lauren joins us in a subsequent week, that's something Lauren would know. Like Lauren's, yeah. So if any of us remember, let's ask Lauren.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do.
But I did think that, so I enjoyed it, but I also thought it was a bunch of nonsense.
That's literally the point.
That's literally the point.
They did it.
Wonderland.
So they did it.
That's true. I agree. We're all in agreement. It was nonsense. Yeah. So it was like funny, but it also there also like, I don't want to say I got bored, because it's not quite, and it's also hard for me to make that judgment because I was micro napping, but I if not bored, then there was this sense like, I don't know, it's almost a movie that I would want to watch either for a particular scene or go back to watch certain scenes. Like it's almost like I don't have a whole picture of the movie. Like I don't have a holistic sort of perspective. I don't consider the movie one whole thing. It's more so a bunch of different things, a bunch of different scenes, a bunch of different bits. And I don't personally, at this time around anyway, I didn't really have a through line for myself, or for the character. Like I didn't personally feel like Alice started in one place. I mean, sure, she like, I don't know, superficially, she learned the lesson of, don't wish for nonsense, because ultimately it's not going to work out for you, and you're going to wish that that for sense. But there wasn't this experience of me going on a narrative journey. My experience is more so like, oh, what random thing's gonna happen next? And it was always entertaining to see with what things we saw and what things happened. But again, I didn't feel purpose personally.
That transitions to a question I was going to ask later, but let's just go to it now. What's the point of Alice in Wonderland? What do we feel the purpose or the appeal is to this story that seemingly has no narrative through line? Like, I think Disney even added a little bit more. That I haven't read the book, full disclosure. I've attempted to read the book, and I remember it was very dense and hard to get through. So that's a me problem. But I was also like 14, but still very dense and difficult to get through. But the impression that I've gotten is that it's exactly like Alex is saying. There's little to no narrative progression. I don't think there's a ton of character growth. I think it's just very episodic. It's like Alex is here, welcome to Wonderland, meet this person, cry, grow, shrink. It's very like surrealistic, I feel, in that it's like this constant dreamlike state of things constantly shifting and changing. So what do we feel the appeal is, and how do we feel about Disney's attempt to add a little bit of a story there? Because I could be wrong, and I probably am, but I think everything Alex said about her wishing for nonsense, experiencing it, and then deciding I want to go home, I think that was more of them trying to justify telling a story in a feature-length film format as opposed to lifting anything that Lewis Carroll provided. So that's just my impression. But yeah, what's the point of Alice in Wonderland? Is it like a Wizard of Oz, I want to go home story? Is like, what do you feel we're meant to get out of it as an audience member, whether it's from this movie or just the story?
I mean, I think like I didn't understand it as a kid, and I couldn't discern anything out of it as a child. But I think maybe from where I'm coming from with like my experience with the text and the musical theater stuff that I did, like, I agree, there is no narrative. And like when people purposely try to put a narrative to Alice, like in the Tim Burton one we're going to see, and in the musical theater versions I've done, like it kind of falls flat because it's not a narratively driven story, which is weird to say because what is a story then, right? I think it's more of a world building story, and like, look how cool your imagination could be. And as an adult, as a cynical adult now, I think that is a really powerful message, not just for kids, but just for anyone. Like, you can make your world whatever the heck you want it to be, despite challenges and limitations and barriers. You can try your best to make it nonsensical to anyone else, to everyone else, but make it your own. And I don't think like Alice's adventure is a nonsense, at least not to her. Like, to me it is. I like seeing birds with shovels as faces is ridiculous, but like that is her imagination. And
glasses. Yeah,
exactly. Like, I think it's a powerful story about like where your imagination could follow, and also then like, you know, the warnings of, you know, getting too carried away with that, whether or not you are being supported with psychedelics or not. But yeah, I think it's cool that Lewis Carroll, I haven't read the original text in a while, but from what I remember, it is dense, and I don't think it serves well in a story like novel format. I do think it serves better as a visual format in an animation. And I think like Disney did a great job. But yeah, putting a narrative on is rough for this one.
Yeah, no, I think there are definitely stories that are hurt when you try to over narrativize them. Like, the perfect example that I go to is the Mary Poppins sequel, because like revisiting Mary Poppins is very similar to me as Alice, where I don't know why I like it, nay, why I love it, but I do, even though not much is happening in terms of a narrative. Like, original with Julie Andrews is just like Julie and the kids are going on one adventure. Now it's like the rooftops. Now it's cartoon, etc., etc. There's a little bit of a very subtle narrative with the parents, which I think is what makes the movie so beautiful, is that it's there, but you kind of have to be an adult to get what's happening. And even if you don't pay attention to it, then it's fine. But then stupid Mary Poppins Returns happens, and then they just layer on way too much stuff happening where it's like, oh, the house is being foreclosed, mortgage, the bank. The climax is Mary Poppins changing the time by flying to Big Ben and pulling the clock in. I'm like, this is too much. This is ruining, for me, what made the original so good was the simplicity and the absurdity of just very short interactions. They didn't need to culminate in anything for it to be emotionally fulfilling. Not that I find Alice emotionally fulfilling, but I feel like it's the same scenario. And I think I haven't watched the Tim Burton version really since it came out, but I don't think I'm going to like it. I think it's going to make me angry, but we'll see. We'll find out together. But yeah. Alex, what are your thoughts? What's the point of Alice?
Well, I kind of agree with what Lisa said in that I think the value of the film is, or at least part of the value of the film is to show us I do think it's a really cool exposition or exploration of this idea of, what does nonsense look like, or what is this child's imagination, look like when she, literally it's spelled out for us in the movie where she just, before the journey begins, she talks to her cat. Oh, and that's so cute, by the way, the cat, Dinah, and the way that the anthropomorphic cat who's like,
my favorite is when, even as a kid, my favorite was Dinah just waving goodbye
and Alice just like, bye Dinah, bye. Like,
and Dinah
totally
looks more concerned than Alice.
Alice is like, I'm falling down a hole now, bye.
Dinah's a star in her own right.
But no, I mean, I think the movie is cool for that like things that aren't, and things that ought to be won't be, and whatever whatever nonsense she says. And so it's like that part's really cool, and I think there is like it is empowering in a way, I guess, like just creatively, just artistically speaking. Like it's an interesting, almost like meta premise of like, as an artist or as a creator, an author of anything like creative, do you need to be constrained by narrative or whatever? I'm not necessarily saying that the movie is like a commentary on that or even exploring that, but it's kind of it does relate to that question, right? You can almost ask, if we're saying that this movie doesn't seem to have like a narrative through line, doesn't seem to have this legato line going through it, it's like, well, what and it's just showing off this creative mishmash of, what would happen if birds had shovels for noses or whatever. I think that's a big part of the value of the film. And now, is that the point of the movie? Maybe. Again, I'm too sleep deprived to make a sound analysis or a comprehensive one, but I think maybe the point of this movie is not like a thematic point. Maybe the point of this movie is a like meta artistic point. And the reason why Disney made it was like, it's a really kind of fun and funny idea. Like, let's take something that makes no sense and animate it and have fun with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't read up or research what their logic was. I feel like my instinct is just that they saw an opportunity to make a very visually spectacular movie when their animation studio was like kind of at its height. Because this was before Peter Pan, but this would have been after Cinderella and potentially after Sleeping Beauty. I don't think it's after Sleeping Beauty, but still, even after Cinderella, like that was when they were just kind of getting back into the swing of things after they rebuilt post World War II. So I feel like they just saw an opportunity to take a piece of text that went in a lot of different places and had all types of different characters. And they were like, we can make this look really cool, amongst other things, like throw in good music, get Ed Wynn to voice the Mad Hatter. And then there we are. Love it. Love it. So I would like to know, having watched the Disney version recently for all of us, what was one scene or moment or just thing that had the biggest impact on you, whether it was emotional, whether it was a discovery or something that made you think, or yeah, what was that for you? For me, I had this realization of something that I had always known, but like articulated for myself the first time, which was that I think a lot of the power, I guess, or interest in Alice in Wonderland compared to similar stories like Wizard of Oz or Peter Pan is that she's totally alone the whole time, which I think is interesting, which I hadn't really clocked until watching it this time around, but just thinking to like Wizard of Oz, for example, yeah, Dorothy starts out alone, but she makes a bunch of friends, and that's the point. And like she has allies on the adventure. Like Peter Pan, the siblings go with you, so there's that safety and security. But this is literally like this person, child even, who is just thrown into utter nonsense, and she has to navigate it completely by herself. And not only does she not make friends, like she makes frenemies, like people who are just trying very much to make her life difficult, like the flowers. And the closest she really has to anyone pseudo normal to talk to is the Cheshire Cat. And like I feel like the cat is the only being that understands what she's going through, but he just goes out of his way to make her life harder, which I think is hilarious. So I think there's something very intriguing just about that notion of here you are completely alone, navigate the absurdity without help, except for this cat who's just going to make things more difficult. That was another thing I loved. I forgot how awful the cat actually is, especially with the Queen of Hearts scene. And I was there for it. He was like, no, let's just make her really angry.
It's fun.
And he's like sitting on her head. Oh, I love that cat so much. So yeah, that was something that I found interesting. Just this utter sense of isolation for poor Alice, which fascinating. Yeah. Yeah. But what about others? Lisa, Alex, what stood out to you?
Yeah, I think this time watching it, what was very evident for me is that Alice always figures it out. Like she always figures it out when she like drinks. Hello, K-Dog and Fish. When she like at the beginning when she's trying to go through the door and she becomes too big and then she becomes too small, trying to get the key, like she manages to get herself out of that situation, goes through the keyhole, finds the dodo bird, and like gets to shore. It's all good. The same with the mushroom thing. Like she destroys a poor bird's nest, but figures out, okay, maybe I don't eat the mushroom and I'll just lick the mushroom to become regular size and I'll be okay. So I think, yeah, even though, and we can talk about Alice as a character afterwards, but, you know, even though she is in these weird, precarious situations, she manages to figure it out. She gets out of it.
Alice gets it done.
Alice gets it done.
Yeah. Actually, I love that point, especially considering what I was just discussing about how she's totally alone. Yeah, she figures it out.
Yeah.
Which is so reputable, especially since I don't know how old she's supposed to be in this version, but I think in the book, I think she's like 4 or 5.
Yeah,
she's super
like
young in the book.
Yeah, like an older toddler.
She's only a little girl.
Yeah. But I was gonna say something in terms of like being alone. Oh yeah, like she cries a lot in the movie that we watched. I remember as a kid being annoyed at that because I didn't like seeing people cry. But I think like I don't know, now like seeing it with adult eyes, I'm like, yeah, it's okay that she cried and is like frustrated and kind of scared. This is a scary situation to be in, even though it's just a dream. Yeah, I like she picks herself back up, and that's such an important lesson.
I think the crying is interesting too, because that was another thing that I noticed when watching this time is the difference between the first crying scene and the second crying scene. Like the first crying scene when she's a giant and like literally cries a river, and then she says, "Oh, I wish I hadn't cried so much." Just the quality of that type of crying where I feel it's more impulsive and more of an outburst versus the crying at the end, which feels really depressing and almost like a more adult sense of like
despair.
I'm totally lost. And also it doesn't help that she's like surrounded by an abyss of nothingness. Yeah. But the subtlety I feel like, yeah. I'm like, it's a journey. Like, it definitely to me feels like the first crying is very much the way that a 4 or a 5-year-old cries, and then the way that she cries at the end is much more adult. Like, I've learned I'm not a kid anymore, but I'm still gonna cry because here it is.
Yeah.
The brush dog got rid of my path.
How dare that brush dog?
Damn brush dog. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I wrote down that what I wrote down was that Alice is pretty clever, catches on quick, responds like a wise adult quite often. So yeah, and I so exactly kind of along the lines of what we've been talking about. Like, however, I will say that my vague notion is that she kind of was this way. Like, to me, there was less of a growth or less of a journey in that regard, as opposed to she was throughout the movie kind of showing us both. She had moments consistently where she was acting like a little girl, and not in a infantilizing way necessarily, but just like in a stereotypical way. So like even like towards the end when she's getting tickled by the flamingo or whatever,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
like that's like a, you know, not to say that an adult can't be tickled, but you know, it's kind of
adults
more.
can be
Let me tell you. Oh yeah.
Let me tell you.
um, but yeah, so yeah, totally just on those lines. Like that was something probably like the most like interesting thing that I noted during my time watching the movie was that, and towards the end is kind of when I wrote this down. But yeah, I just kind of I appreciated. I did appreciate her character kind of consistently, like you were saying, Lisa, in terms of her figuring it out. Like, she was not just figuring it out, but like she was, in my eyes, like I said, acting like a kind of a wise in wise ways a lot of the times, especially like specifically at the end with the queen, when the queen tells her like, you know, curtsy and, you know, say all these things. And there was, what was the, oh yeah, there was and when they were playing croquet, and Alice is observing how the queen, like how everything was just lining up for the queen. Like the queen didn't actually do anything.
Yeah.
She just she didn't even hit anything, but like everything was just kind of happening and people were applauding. And she kind of has this, it's kind of, I find it kind of brilliant where she has this like little quick, like, you know, glance, and she's like starts joining the clapping as though to say like, oh, well, I guess I might as well join along and, you know, preserve my head / just go along. It's going to be more conducive, you know, like she's acting political. And I think she does that throughout the movie, and it's very much not a kid thing, in my opinion. Like, I don't think kids make those kinds of choices often. I don't think they have that awareness often. Personally, I think, you know, there maybe kids can be friendly and kind and diplomatic by virtue of like both being ignorant and trying to avoid confrontation, but to go to the level of like there's something about Alice to me that is like definitively not childish.
Mm-hmm.
And there are also childish aspects. So all that to say is that for me, Alice isn't a believable kid. She and it's kind of interesting because as I started observing these things from her character and kind of creating this construct in my mind of Alice the wise adult, I started hearing her that way too, and started like the voice actress became more and more apparently old. Like not in the sense of like a 50-year-old woman or whatever, not that 50's old, any 50-year-olds listening, but just as not a kid, and just hearing like, oh, this is clearly an adult putting on some kind of voice, but not even like it's not Batman putting on his
not, I think she was definitely under 20. Like, she wasn't an adult. The actress.
Oh, really?
She was a teenager.
Well,
yeah,
to me, she sounded
hired.
like I mean, sure. To me, she sounded like, and maybe it's my own kind of conditioning to like the Julie Andrews, like proper British speaking. I'm just a little girl. I can't even do it. But she was like the voice actress was like, she was rolling her R's. I'm just a little girl. Oh, that's almost like Scottish or something. But she probably didn't roll that R. But no, like the way she was speaking, her accent, even like the type of British accent she had was so was something that I associate with, like, it's very sophisticated, very kind of upper class in my mind. That might be an ignorant thing to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
She was evidently, she was 13 when the movie came out. So she would
Wow.
have recorded it probably somewhere between the ages of 11 and 12. But this was the 50s. It took longer to make movies. I doubt she was like 10 though.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
she
yeah.
was somewhere between 10 to 12.
So that's the thing. Maybe British girls who have those accents all sound like that.
That's
to
it.
me. So that's like no longer the same point that I was making initially, but now it just changes to, I guess it's more of a personal psychological phenomenon as I started aging her character based on what I saw as adult actions or adult wisdom. I then aged in my mind her voice. So that'd be interesting. And again, I am sleep deprived, so nothing I say makes sense. But yeah, it'd be interesting, I guess, to watch the movie again and try to pay attention to see if I have the same kind of experience, the same perception of hearing somebody that sounds distinctly older than they look. But yeah,
I always I always aged her as like 9 to 12. Like that's just like to age her at like anything younger would be wild to me. And anything older would be like, you're a teenager, you should like know better.
Yeah.
But like that aging of like between 9 and 12, it's like the precipice of like puberty, right? And like it's kind of like a cool thing that the creators had.
well, you start figuring stuff out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's the Wendy scenario too. Like we were kind of discussing last year. I feel like Wendy needs to be a very specific age, in my opinion, for the story to work. Like she needs to be, well, it's even the entire point of the narrative in some capacity. Like she needs to be right on the precipice of still being young and naive while still getting smarter or wiser or more adult. And I feel like it's almost the same for Alice, or I think Alice benefits from being at that age versus, like I said, in the book, I think she's 4, which is a totally different scenario. It's almost the same. I don't think either of you were you here for Wizard of Oz month? No, that was,
I don't think so.
2020. That was a long time ago. But no, for Wizard of Oz month, when we were talking about Return to Oz, because that movie has a significantly younger Dorothy, where I think she plays as around 10 years old, as opposed to the Judy Garland Dorothy, which is, I think she was 16 or 17 when she shot it. And just the difference of how the story is shaped when you have a teenager who can take care of herself, and it's more about her journey of learning to appreciate home versus like taking an actual child who has no protection and just throwing them into the chaos of Oz, or in this case, Wonderland. Like, it's just interesting to see how age shifts the character. But yeah, let's talk about Alice, because we're kind of there already now, just as a character. I feel like, to build on or jump off of what Alex was saying, I think a lot of the interesting qualities of her and of the story and of Alice in Wonderland in general is a lot of the depth that comes out of the simplicity of both Alice, alongside what a lot of people are doing and saying. I feel like Alice is an interesting character because I feel everything she does is so intuitive. She doesn't overthink things. She's just constantly present in the moment and doing whatever makes the most sense in the moment, which I feel is very much characteristic of how kids think. Like, adults can still think that way, but I think it's more common when you're a kid. Before you start to assess things and assess what makes the most sense, you just kind of do whatever makes the most sense in the moment, even if it's nonsense. And I think that's what Alice does, and what Alice in Wonderland kind of is. And I feel like I see Alex's finger. Just 1 second. What was I going to say? You made me lose my train of thought, Alex. No, I was going to say,
I didn't interrupt you.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's too late. I feel, and this is another case where I would have benefited from reading the book, but I didn't. The impression that I get is that the book has a lot of very clever philosophical ideas that are just like thrown out as one-liners that seem really simple, but aren't. So like, there's that quote that everyone on Etsy puts on t-shirts, including me soon enough, link in bio. But like something like, I can't go back to who I was yesterday because I was a different person then. Just something that's seemingly really simple, but has a lot of depth when you start to unpack it. I think that's kind of the heart and soul of the source material. And I question how much Disney carried that into their movie, as opposed to just take the wacky characters, lose all the philosophy and the depth, because that's what they did with Peter Pan. But anyway, but I still love this movie. But Alex, you
my pseudo interruption or interjection was going to be that on your point of kids being intuitive and adults kind of overthinking. I agree with the sentiment of what you're communicating, but my counter would be that in my experience, kids don't have a habit of ignoring, like, the way Alice operates. I think that a more true to childhood behavior would be her being very distracted by the nonsense going on, which she isn't. She's intrigued, she's naturally curious, and she hops into situations, and she has a clear objective. And in this case, I guess that's kind of now kind of built her narrative, right? She has a through line of chasing the white rabbit, just like Neo in the Matrix. So she comes in with like an objective. She's open. She's sort of has this natural openness to the people she meets. She's not supremely judgmental of anybody she comes across for the most part. She, like, in terms of having a strong negative or positive opinion. And then she doesn't spend too much time before she determines, like, whether or not she wants to continue. Like, she's kind of not really susceptible in the movie, as far as I can recall, to like the suggestions of those around her. You know, the most sort of on the nose example being her time with the Mad Hatter, where, you know, they're constantly trying to get her, you know, they're putting her through this loop, and she's very clearly from the get-go aware of it, like, in the sense of, like, the first time it happens, she's like, well, like, this is kind of inconvenient and this is not what I want to be doing right now, but okay, I'll indulge you. And there's a couple more variations of that until eventually she's like, that's it, like, I'm gone, like, I've had it. So yeah, like, that was just my point to say that I think the way she behaves is not like a kid. It's like a kid in the way you're saying, where she's in sort of, she has this ease of intuition and this sort of, like, yeah, she's not really doubting herself, with the exception of that scene in the woods that you remarked on, right, where she's where you said it was depressing. I didn't find it depressing. I thought it was very cool. Like, I thought it was very adult. Again, I thought she was just kind of having this, like, cathartic experience almost, where she was just, like, letting it out and being like, oh man, like, all these things, I just wanted this, if only I did that. But again, she was doing it in a kind of a wise way. She wasn't whining, which she did kind of do at the beginning, which you contrasted those two crying scenes, I think, aptly. But yeah, you're welcome. But yeah, I think that's what I would say. I would say that I agree with your description of Alice as a character. I just would disagree that that's evidence for childlike behavior. I would say it's actually evidence for non-childlike behavior, but I'm open to discussing that further. But we don't have to, but we can.
Well, I disagree with you, Alex.
Well, let's discuss it further.
So, as a person who has been with a lot of 9 to 12-year-olds, like, that is how they act. And despite my one criticism on what Alice seems to be and seems to be struggling with, like, her, like, not manipulation, but like her attitude and her outlook on life, as in, like, being like, she has a set objective and she isn't distracted by all the nonsense, makes so much sense to me. I've seen so many, like, 10-year-olds who are like, no, I have a set objective and I'm going to get it done. And yes, I will indulge you to do this, but I'm going to get bored out of it. And that's fine. Not to say, like, all 9 to 12-year-olds are like this, but I've, like, the majority that I've seen in, like, the arts world, like, that's totally their personality. And yeah, I think I always have to remind myself that, like, kids are so damn smart. Like, sometimes they're smarter than the adults in the room, just simply because, like, they're newness to the situation. Like they have a fresher perspective.
Mhm.
And the reason why I am currently reminded by this is I've been like binge watching Survivor, and it's a whole
Good.
strategy game of like, you know, making people trust you, making people be on your side even though you're going to betray them. And Jeff Probst, the host of the show, like constantly reminds everyone like kids are watching this and kids are huge fans of this show. And I'm like, why are they fans of this show? It's because they're like interested in these like narrative storylines, and they are smarter than we give them credit to most of the time, because their brains are just like they're sparked by all of the activity. And there's a way for them to like focus on certain things that, I don't know, as adults maybe we're not inclined to. My one criticism of Alice though is she suffers from like the good girl mentality, the good kid mentality, of like not wanting to ruffle any feathers. And like, I maybe it's because it's a cultural thing like between like British and North American kids, but like I dislike it so much because I think Alice could be an even better character, a better kid in this story if she had a little bit more attitude and she wore it on her sleeve a little bit more. But like, yeah, she was just like so nice to the Mad Hatter at the tea party. She's so nice to the Queen. And like, I I love when I see an Alice who has attitude, because a 9 to 12-year-old that I know would totally like sass somebody back,
Mhm.
you know? But I think we discredit kids for not being at like the level as at or yeah, not being at a level as an adult. But yeah, I think they captured her well. I just wish that they made her sassier.
Yeah, I'm wondering if, and well, Nick Woods is probably asleep. Nick, are you still here as the resident British person?
Yeah,
I'm wondering if it's meant to be a satire on just British politeness and British manners, like not just exclusive to kids. And maybe this is just a stereotype, but Canadians are stereotyped as being polite too. But just everything you're saying about her being way too accepting and polite of like the Queen is the example that stands out to me. I think that's very characteristic of not just polite British girls in the 1800s, but just even people now. Like in a scenario like that, I feel like even if threatened with my life by someone who's going to chop my head off, my mentality would still be, I should just be really polite to you,
yeah,
just in case.
yeah.
And
Oh,
it's
of
almost
course.
calling attention to how ridiculous and kind of comical that is. And yeah, I'm wondering if that was at all an intention that came from the book or from Lewis Carroll, or if it's just incidental.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to know more of that, because I don't quite remember. But
Yeah, like
yeah.
it feels like very Jonathan Swift from what I remember of Gulliver's Travels, where
Mm,
just everything is a social commentary in some capacity of like, British people act like this. Why do they do it?
yeah.
Maybe you'll second guess it if I put this person with a bunch of giants, or I put this person with a bunch of really small people, or horses that can talk. I want to watch
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gulliver's Travels more. Yeah.
but I do think, you know, there is a benefit for her being polite. Like she is up against all these like challenges and obstacles of these, you know, characters that she comes across of. And I don't know. But yeah, I'm just I think this is maybe why I also didn't like the movie as a kid, because like I couldn't connect with Alice in the way of like her being okay that she can't find the rabbit and that she's like on that journey, or that she is being so nice to everyone. Because I don't know, I wasn't that polite of a kid. So
Most kids aren't.
and yeah, exactly. So I'm wondering like maybe that is the cultural thing. So I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, I think Nick's asleep. Nick, if you ever rewatch this, weigh in the
Yeah, in
comments.
the comments.
We need you. We need your British logic to weigh in. So yeah, and I'm wondering, do we think that this is just Disney's specific depiction of her, or from what we know or remember of other adaptations, is this just what the soul of Alice is? Like, how do we feel about Disney's depiction of Alice? I guess that's the next question. Because especially to compare it to Peter Pan last year, my perspective was I hated Disney's version of Peter Pan because I felt like making him slightly older made him infinitely creepier. Like when you have a Peter Pan whose voice has changed borderline, I think that makes his actions of like collecting children for his club weirder, versus having someone who like plays as a 5 to an 8-year-old. I think like, but that's specific to Peter. But I personally really like Disney's depiction of Alice. I feel that just the way she's just so go with the flow, while at the same time, for whatever reason, being obsessed with finding the rabbit just because it's the thing she's decided she's going to do. Yeah, I like, for me, I think right now she's my perfect Alice. Flaws versus appeal, but my opinion might change over the next few weeks because this wasn't totally intentional, but thinking forward, next week's Alice is probably the youngest of all of our potential Alices. I think she is around 5 or 6 years old. The Alice the week following is like 12 to 13. And then the last week she's a full-blown adult. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. But yeah, how do we feel about Disney's depiction of Alice?
Yeah, not my favorite. I like the age. I wish she was sassier, like I've said. I like visually, I like her as, long blonde hair, short little kid, like whatever, like that's cute. Yeah, I think they nailed it from what Lewis Carroll wrote, but yeah, I want to like a personality reset on Alice and see what that would be. And I'm not familiar with a few of the movies we're going to be watching in the coming weeks, so I'm excited to see like what else is out there. But
yeah, like I think she definitely, for better or worse, is the standard for Alice of what everyone thinks of when they think of Alice, just because of how ingrained into everyone's consciousness the Disney version is. So yeah. Alex, what do you think about Disney's interpretation?
Well, I did note, I don't have any other versions of the character to really compare her to, but I did note that in the opening credits, there were a lot of writers credited. There were a lot of other people too, like a lot of other departments, like music. The music department had a lot of like people listed as, I don't know what, but seemingly like music creators or writers, but they were just strictly like script writing or writing. Like there were a lot of people credited, and I don't know how that corresponds to the reality of how this film and this script was written 1-to-1. But the superficial premise of having a bunch, like 8 to 10 writers, seems like, my inclination is to believe that everything in this movie is very Disney. Like my inclination is to
what
believe that.
What does that even mean?
Well, as opposed to a faithful adaptation.
Oh, okay.
So like my inclination is to suspect that Disney just took, the source material and just did whatever they wanted with it. Now, that's not to say that there aren't elements that are true to the material or whatever, incidentally or not, but that's kind of again, I'm totally ignorant here. So
from what I kind of know, and I might be wrong, but I don't think I am. Disney animated films and animated films really in general never had dedicated screenwriters or script writers. Like anyone who's credited with story was very likely an animator. So the way that they put these movies together was just throwing a bunch of animators into a room and storyboarding and coming up with ideas for sequences, and then just kind of incidentally coming up with the words for the actors to record. It wasn't until Beauty and the Beast in probably would have been developed in 89 through to 91 or so. That's when they brought on Linda Wolverton as a dedicated screenwriter. And that was like a big deal because that was the first time they actually hired someone who wasn't an animator to come in and write down a script for the movie. And like she went through her own struggles, and then she created Belle. And I have a video about it, which I encourage everyone to watch, because pretty well that whole journey for her was her being in a room full of mostly, if not entirely, male animators, and them changing her script and being like, look, Belle's baking a pie. And she's like, she wouldn't know how to bake a pie. Why did you change my script? Is it because I'm a woman? She actually said that. And like everything that she did for Beauty and the Beast is amazing. But then she went and wrote that terrible Maleficent movie. So
I love that Maleficent movie.
Oh, another time.
Oh,
I can't do it now.
My God.
Actually, Linda Wolverton also wrote the Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland movie, which we'll discuss in 4 weeks. So she's had her hills and her valleys, but she created Belle, and I love Linda Wolverton. So even though I don't agree with all of her creative choices, she's a genius and I love her. But to bring this all back, Alex, to answer your question, yeah, the writers weren't really focusing, from what I know, on a solid adaptation. It was all entirely visually and animation driven, and then crafting the story was kind of incidental to that.
Yeah, so I suspect that it's very possible and plausible that there's a truer to the source material adaptation of the character. And then the question becomes like, yeah, what do I but yeah, on the subject of just judging this particular Alice, like I liked her. I thought she was cool. I thought the movie was visually nice. I thought her, yeah, she's a whatever little blonde girl, pretty dress, like cool. Yeah, perfectly pleasant. But yeah, and I thought her character was cool. Like I thought she was, and it was fun observing the the cleverness of her character and the level-headedness of her character and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, and I kind of touched on this. I was like thoroughly impressed just with the performance from Catherine Beaumont, especially now knowing how young she actually was. I wouldn't have guessed that she was younger than 13 when she recorded this. My guess would have been 15 to 16 or so, but I just feel
I've been like 30.
Yeah, or 30. Yeah, exactly. There you go. I think voice acting is just a tricky thing in general, which I'm coming to appreciate more and more as I get older and watch more movies and get a sense of how different that craft is from like on-screen or theater acting. But yeah, I just think her performance and her text work is really good. Like it carries the movie more so than I've remembered it carrying the movie. And yeah, I think she just grounds the entire thing in a way that is necessary for an Alice movie to work. Because I feel if you don't have an interesting or a grounded, for lack of a different word, Alice, then it just goes too off the rails and it's a little too much. So I don't know, I was invested enough in her to enjoy the movie. And I hope that's the case for all the subsequent Alices. I've actually never seen the movie we're watching next week, so who knows? I just know that's supposed to be really creepy. So I'm excited for that. Yes. So kind of on that note, which character or performance specifically did you find the most entertaining or engaging? Since we're kind of talking about voice actors or even just character overall. Like I knew that I would love Ed Wynn as the Mad Hatter because he's probably one of the most iconic Disney character voices of all time. Like you just hear him and like, there it is. And it's Ed Wynn. We love Ed Wynn.
What has he done?
I can't actually tell you another Disney character he played because it's going to show up in the game.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in the Nutty Professor movies or the Flubber movies, the original ones from the 60s. He also did, I think, like a ton of vaudeville stuff in the 30s. He was almost cast as the Wizard in The Wizard of Oz.
Really?
Yeah, but he turned it down because the role was too small. And that's when they reworked it for Frank Morgan. Because they were like, we can't lose another good actor, make it bigger. And that's why Frank Morgan plays like 5 different roles, like different versions of the Wizard in the movie, because originally he was just supposed to show up at the end. But I'm very entertained when I imagine the Wizard of Oz with the Mad Hatter's voice, like in the throne room. Yeah, he's just like, I am Oz. So that's funny. But what's her face? Verna Felton as the Queen of Hearts, I adore. She's just, there's so much power in that voice. It's just so good. And just the way that she's animated, I didn't realize how many hearts there were in her animation. Like, obviously there's the hearts on her underwear and everything, but like the shape of her bodice or whatever the top chunk of a dress is called, that being a heart, I thought was amazing. There are certain times when she's yelling and her mouth is in the shape of a heart. There's just so much heart in her animation, which I thought was brilliant. And I loved her. So yeah. Oh, and the Cheshire Cat. Actually, I love all the characters, but yeah. the Queen of Hearts. She's the winner for me on this viewing. Lisa, who's your favorite character?
I think I'll have to go with the White Rabbit. I
Oh.
adored him so much. Like I don't think I cared for him much as a kid, but like, oh my god, he's so cute and he's always running late and he's missing his gloves. I relate to the White Rabbit. Yeah, I think like everything about it, visually, the voice, the personality, it's just so hilarious, so cute. Yeah. And I also think if maybe I'm like putting my foot in my mouth already, but I think it's very difficult to do the White Rabbit wrong. Like you can't mess up the White Rabbit. So yeah, just a staple character. I really like him.
Yeah, and I felt so bad for him this time around, just knowing that he works for the Queen, like the Queen of Hearts. He's a government employee. The amount of crap he has to put up with, and he's always running late.
Yeah, like I have so much sympathy for that guy.
No, like I feel like he's what's her face, Anne Hathaway in The Devil Wears Prada. Like,
yes,
that's him.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah, he's so cute. I like his little watch, his little, what's it called?
2 days forward, backward.
Yeah, just
pocket watch.
Yeah, pocket watch.
Oh, and when it breaks, heartbreaking. It was an unbirthday
yeah, and then
present.
the Mad Hatter like messes it up with the jam. Like, oh my god.
Mustard? Don't be silly.
Some lemon.
Mustard, I hardly know her.
Lemon, yes, that makes sense.
Oh my gosh, so good. Alex, how about you? Favorite standout character on this viewing?
Probably just the ones I mentioned. Her cat at the beginning.
Dinah.
Dinah, and Alice. I think just overall, just clever Alice. But I do want to shout out there's when Alice meets the like flowers. There's when they're talking about what kind of flower, what kind of genus she is.
Yes.
There's that one like one of the last lines or whatever where like the bud is like, I think she's pretty.
Yeah.
And then the other one says, "Shut up, bud." I thought that was just exceptionally.
Is that
clever.
actually a line?
Yeah.
I think I missed. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was exceptionally clever.
Cute.
So.
I think I forgot how funny that whole flower scene actually was, and just all the little it moves so quickly, and they're all so sassy, and the way that they managed to somehow make them look like very stuck up middle-aged women from the 50s.
Yeah,
I'm all about it. I love it. It felt like I was watching I Love Lucy when she's with her like women's club, and they're and they're planning some kind of ridiculous event. That was the same energy, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So there we are. All right. Any other thoughts before we do the game? Alex, any notes? Anything you wrote down that we didn't discuss?
No, we discussed them all. Yeah, just it's I do think the movie lends itself to it is a psychedelic film in a sense, right? I think it's.
Oh, actually, that is one thing I kind of wanted to discuss. And it might even be a better discussion for later in the month when we watch different types of movies. But how do you feel this story benefits, if at all, from being told in an animated format, like a 2D animated format specifically, as opposed to theater, as opposed to live action, as opposed to any other alternative?
Immensely, I'd say.
I love theater as a theater producer. I don't really like it as a theater production, just because as a producer, it would like kill my mind to like try to get all of the things to happen. But I think it could be a rad production. I just think like on screen, you can do so many things. And I think it being in 2D and the way they did it is exceptional because they managed to make the lighting and the shading and the depth, the movement, like so perfect that I didn't even desire for it to be in 3D. So yeah, I love it. I love it as is, as this version. Yeah.
It would be a great once like augmented reality becomes more developed and ubiquitous technology, I think, and once like theatrical and live performances incorporate that technology, I think, I mean, so much is going to happen, I would imagine, and will be very cool. But this would be a really cool immersive experience to, like, whether you're sitting in a theater or like walking through like uh in a warehouse that's built to be like the Alice in Wonderland sort of experience, and you're walking amongst actors and you have like augmented reality glasses and you get to see the cat, and you get to see like
Show me the
stuff
cat.
come to life, like maybe even the cat's an actor, but like, like there's all kinds of like, once you get there, I think it'll be really interesting to see, because I agree, like film, there's so much you can do with film that you can't do right now. But I think with augmented reality as an example, slash virtual reality, but augmented reality, I think that distinction, or like, I think a lot of the stuff that we attribute to being solely in the domain of films, we're going to be able to get in our sort of live immersive experiences.
Yeah, I mean, like, they're doing that with The Life of Pi right now on stage. Like, I don't know how they did it, but it's the mastery of scenography with projection, set, and lighting, where you literally see from the audience a man on a boat with a tiger. And it's
like projection mapping.
Is it projection mapping, or is it actually like, are there glasses involved?
It's projection mapping.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, like, you can do anything with projection mapping. It just takes, a lot of expertise and skill and a large budget. But yeah, I think like an Alice version with that, even before augmented reality, it could be done really well.
Yeah.
Well,
even a simple one, but
it's like, I think 2D animation is the perfect format for this, because there are so many things that are outside the realm of possibility in a 3D world. I mean, it's the same
for now.
Well, I don't know. Like, it's the same outlook that I have on The Little Mermaid. And this was one of the first videos I did when the channel was new. And like, they had just announced a live action Little Mermaid movie. And I stand by this thought, and I'm hoping that the new movie proves me wrong, but I don't think I will. I don't think Little Mermaid can really work as anything other than a 2D animated movie because of the underwater sequences. Like, just when you watch cartoon Little Mermaid, the fluidity of the movement and everything is just, there's a natural quality to it that just feels easy and effortless, alongside the fact that just having that separation from knowing that it's a cartoon, you don't question things like, how are they talking? How does the sound like this? Versus when you put it into a photorealistic world, then first off, the actors, I feel they aren't as physically liberated as they should be, because you just know for a fact, like, they're on harnesses, they're uncomfortable, they're surrounded by green screens, and like, just no good. So it's kind of the same for Alice in Wonderland. I think there's such a benefit to the imaginative quality that can come to life through the limitations almost of existing in a 2D world. Like, I keep going back to the Cheshire Cat and just the way that he effortlessly disappears and reappears, and the way he's able to morph his body in such a way that wouldn't have the same impact if that was to be rendered in a 3D animated, like even Pixar scenario. Like, there's just such a benefit to having it be a flat line drawing that is so perfect in my mind for the material. But to talk about theater, did either of you see when Stratford did Alice probably like 5 to 7 years ago, Through the Looking Glass?
No, I didn't see it.
It was so good.
Yeah?
It was so,
I don't think so,
trippy and imaginative, and a lot of it was left to the imagination, which I think worked. It was directed by Gillian Kiley, who is like one of the most playful directors, I feel, at least in Canadian theater. She's the one she's from Newfoundland originally, and she still works out of there a lot. So she's the one who's doing the Gander production right now of Come From Away. Oh, and cool. What else? She did Stratford's As You Like It, I think the most recent one a few years ago. So she just has this ability to very much bring in the audience. And I've audited a couple of her rehearsals, and she's just very imaginative when she creates an ensemble. And the way that she brought together the Alice ensemble was so much fun. And it was just a full experience, like as soon as you got to the theater, because pretty well the entire ensemble was playing some version of Alice. So they were all in the same Alice dress. Like, you had the main character who was Alice, but everyone, like the entire ensemble, unless they were playing a dedicated character, they were some version of Alice running around. So like you had the male actors, for example, sometimes in full beard, still running around in an Alice dress with an Alice wig, which was brilliant and ridiculous and hilarious. But like as soon as you got to the theater, one of the Alice actors was just riding a bicycle around the theater outside. And like she was doing that for probably a solid half hour, and she wouldn't talk to anybody. She was just riding a bike. And the way that the play opened was that same Alice ensemble member rode her bike across the stage. So it was like she entered into the theater world, which was so magical. And like there was another point halfway through where I think it was during the wrestling match between the lion and the unicorn. I don't know if we're going to see that in any of the upcoming movies, but that's a thing from the book. The lion and the unicorn duke it out. And when they finished their fight, all of the Alices went into the audience to like give prizes to every audience member, and they were tiny bags of jelly beans. So every single audience member got a tiny bag of jelly beans, and the show held for everyone to open their jelly beans. And then she utilized the sound of the cellophane wrappers, and they were like, it's raining. And so like just stuff like that, I feel, is utilizing theater's unique properties to make Alice work. And Eliza, you're stretching. Okay, yeah, you're fine. You're fine. So anyway, yeah, I think Alice is just so ridiculous, and there's so much room for imagination and possibility that it's the most exciting to me when you are non-realistic and when you just utilize whatever the special properties are of your medium, whether it's flat line drawings to make the Cheshire Cat look amazing or Alice riding a bike around the Avon Theatre in Stratford. So good. Love it. There we are.
Avon Theatre.
Yeah, apparently I've been saying Avon my whole life.
Saying Avon.
But it's Avon, and I don't like it.
No, it's not.
It is.
Anthony Chimolini, whatever your name is, come on here and tell us how to pronounce it.
This is the one, actually. I was watching an interview with him, and he said Avon, and I thought, is this just like a pretentious artistic director thing? But I cross-referenced it. Like every
British people say Stratford upon Avon.
Yeah.
I thought it's Avon. Stratford upon Avon.
That's us.
I agree.
Bastardizing it as Canadians.
It's
still gonna be Avon.
I know.
Avon.
I think let's just bring it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Now I kind of like Avon. Avon.
Don't you start. You were pro Avon until I was. Eliza, come say hello.
Eliza.
No? Come on.
Eliza.
She's just no. Oh, she literally just shook her head
like, nah.
and ran away.
I
know. Eliza, to me, when I was watching this afternoon, she's very much the same Cheshire Cat energy of let me just make your life more difficult for my entertainment.
Good for her.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I know. Very good for her. Yeah. This is that's why I love cats. Like, they're so petty, and I love it. So anyway, here we are. Oh, Eliza, you've been freed. Yeah, you've been freed. Sabrina. There we go. We don't know where Sabrina is. Oh, do you want to come say hello, Mother? What? Do you want to come say hello on the show, Martha? No? Okay.
Hi, Martha.
No, you're okay. Okay, you can wave. Just put your hand in the frame and wave. Yeah, that's
hello.
My mom. Everyone's saying hello. Okay, hi. Go back and watch the show.
I can't get over there anyway.
No, you're one of my only 5 viewers. You have to go watch the show. Okay.
I've been cooking dinner.
Okay, we're gonna play a game now. Here we go.
I'm excited.
So for the game, I mean, it's another classic game that we've played relatively recently. I can't remember what the name of the game is, but what's that? Eliza, are you gonna come back in the room? I'll just leave the door open for her. It'll be fine. So for the game, it's another. I can't remember when we played this, but we played it during Oscar month. I am going to tell you. What's that? The cat's being distracting again. Okay, I'm going to tell you. Which way am I doing this? Am I going backwards or forwards with this? So. I'm going to say the name of a character. Yeah, this is how it goes. I'm going to say the name of a character from another movie, and you have to tell me which actor from this movie played that other role.
I know the actors
for example,
in this movie.
Well, you have to use your best instinct. So, for example, if we were doing this with Sound of Music, if I were to say which character in Sound of Music was also in Mary Poppins as Mary Poppins, you would say Julie Andrews.
Could I say Maria?
Or Maria, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so the reason I say characters is because I don't expect you to know the actual actor names.
Okay.
So here we are. All right, here we go. And there's only one repeat because we're weren't a ton of actors in this movie. So for the most part, there aren't repeats, but there's only one that is repeated. So here we go. Which actor from Disney's Alice in Wonderland also played Wendy in Disney's Peter Pan? Starting with an easy one. Okay.
Okay, I'm
Let's
ready.
see our answers. In 3, 2, 1. There we go. Alice, you're right. Okay, hold on. Alex gets 1 point. Lisa gets 1 point. I started with the easy one. They get harder. Next, which character / actor from Alice in Wonderland also played Winnie the Pooh in Winnie the Pooh, the original from the 70s or the 60s? This is one where you can kind of connect the dots and hear which character sounds like Winnie the Pooh, because the character sounds very much like Winnie the Pooh.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Answers, please. In 3, 2, 1. Okay, we got one for Mad Hatter. Alex? Rabbit. No, we were looking for Cheshire Cat.
That's what I was gonna say, but then you
should
made
have.
me-
Cheshire Cat sounds exact. He's like evil Winnie
I also
the
was
Pooh.
kind of I was also kind of like, how do I spell that?
Yeah. Cheshire. It's like Cheshire.
It's like Chaser.
Yeah, like, sure, but not. Next. Okay. Fairy godmother in Disney's Cinderella. The fairy godmother in Disney's Cinderella. Answers, please. In 3, 2, 1. Singing Rose, Queen. One of you got it. She's the Queen of Hearts.
Oh man.
Here we go.
I thought Alex, you had that.
I
'Cause
did
then
too.
like,
I was like,
oh man.
Well, Singing Flower might come back because
okay.
not a lot to pick from. Okay, next. Which? Getting confused on my game again. Okay, yeah. Here we go. Which characters in Alice in Wonderland were voiced by the same person that did Jasper in 101 Dalmatians? Jasper is one of Cruella's henchmen.
Oh no, now I'm second guessing myself.
Don't second guess.
I'm second
Don't
guessing.
second guess.
Okay.
All right. Answers, please. In 3, 2, 1. White Rabbit. The ace who paints the roses. Good guesses. We were looking for the Tweedles. Both D and Dumb. The Tweedles.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Next, Mr. Smee in Disney's Peter Pan. This is, again, another character where it's not obvious, but when you think about it, it's the exact same voice.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Answers, please. 3, 2, 1. Mad Hatter. Does that say Mad Rabbit?
Yeah.
yeah, the rabbit, the hare that was with the Hatter.
Oh, the March Hare.
March
yeah.
here.
March Hare. No, it was the White Rabbit. You almost got the point, Alex. You were
Oh
looking for the White Rabbit.
man.
The White. That's why I questioned you, Alex. I was like, oh, I want to give you
Smee
the
doesn't
point.
sound like the rabbit.
Yes, he does. He sounds like the
He's
White
like,
Rabbit.
I'm Smee.
No,
White
you're thinking of Bob Hopkins from Hook,
Yeah.
Oh.
What were you saying?
from Disney's Peter Pan,
Oh,
the
okay.
cartoon.
Okay.
Yeah. Next. Okay. Which Alice in Wonderland actor also voiced Mrs. Darling in Peter Pan, aka Wendy's mom? I believe in you. I'm saving the most exciting one for last, but we'll get there. Okay, answers, please. 3, 2, 1. Alice's mom. We were looking for Alice's sister, but I'll give you the point, Lisa.
Yes.
Yes.
Is Alice has a wait? When does
Yeah,
Alice?
it's the
It's
the
the mom.
older girl at the beginning and the end.
Oh,
It's
okay.
her mom.
Okay.
Yeah, she's giving mom energy, but it's her sister. But yeah,
Okay.
Whatever.
Does the movie tell us that at any point?
Yeah.
Okay.
at some point. I don't know when, but it does.
Okay.
Okay. Which Alice in Wonderland character was also the second official voice of Mickey Mouse after Walt Disney.
What?
Yeah. So Mickey Mouse has had 4 official voices. So this was the second one. This is the one who took over for Walt when Walt's voice got too gravelly from years of smoking.
See, kids, that's what smoking will do to your voice.
You don't get to be Mickey anymore. It also killed him. But okay. 3, 2, 1. Mad Hatter. Alex? The birds who calls her what?
Snake.
Oh,
Serpent.
snake. Oh, I forgot about the snake bird. No, you're both wrong. We were looking for the dormouse. The
Oh, okay.
dormouse.
Oh,
Twinkle,
man.
twinkle, little bat.
I was trying to think of high-pitched voices.
Yeah. All right, we are next looking for Flora, the red fairy in Sleeping Beauty. So if you remember in Sleeping Beauty, we have Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather, the 3 good fairies, and then there's Maleficent, the evil fairy. Unless she's Angelina Jolie, and then there's a weird unmerited redemption story that might as well have been its own thing because it strayed so far away from canon that like
wow, Matt.
if it's gonna be that different, then make it its own movie instead of just riding the coattails of something that's popular and commercialized.
You know what? You know what? That's a conversation for another time.
Maleficent marathon. I have to watch both of those movies. I saw Maleficent on opening night because I was so excited for it. And I was sitting there alone in the theater on like a Thursday night in Burlington, basically throwing my popcorn at the screen like, this is wrong.
Okay, look, listen. First Maleficent, amazing. I loved it. I think it's a great twist. Second Maleficent movie can go die in a trash fire because that was crap. That was crap. Anyway,
takes. Okay.
Another for another time.
Oh yeah. So who voiced the red fairy in Sleeping Beauty? Singing flowers, singing. We were looking for Queen of Hearts again. That was our repeat.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
She was so like. Can you imagine the same human gave us the fairy godmother and the Queen of Hearts, plus that red fairy in Sleeping Beauty, which is kind of halfway between both of them. Yeah. Okay. Now we're moving into live action.
Okay.
So the last 2 were in live action movies. Which Alice in Wonderland actor also played Uncle Albert in Mary Poppins? That's her uncle who like loves to laugh and flies onto the ceiling. I love to laugh loud and long and clear. All right. Answers, please, in 3, 2, 1. One of you's right. It's the Mad Hatter.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it's Ed Wynn, who, according to Vince, was also in the Diary of Anne Frank. And I know you say you hope he wasn't using his Hatter voice, but that's not too far off from just what his voice is. Yeah. So now I want to see the Anne Frank movie and hear what it is. Okay, and final question for the regular round. This is the one that I found really exciting, actually. Which Alice in Wonderland voice actor / character was Uncle Max in The Sound of Music?
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I have no idea.
Yeah. It's Uncle Max. I just love that he was in Alice in Wonderland and then he was Uncle Max. I love Uncle Max. Even though he's a low-key Nazi. I love Uncle Max.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
Yeah. All right. Did you not know that?
No, I didn't.
No,
I just know that you loved a low-key Nazi.
Well, no, I love Uncle Max.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, no way to get out of this. So
no.
Moving on.
Anyway.
No, Alex. No. Okay. Answers, please. 3, 2, 1. It's the caterpillar, Lisa.
Yes.
Oh,
how
the
did you
caterpillar.
know?
I don't know. I just remember Uncle Max kind of looking not fully like a white guy, and the caterpillar had like a little bit of an accent, and I'm pretty sure the guy is white.
I think he is white, and he was just kind of being offensive. But
yeah, he was being offensive. So yeah,
well, you got the point.
Yeah,
you got the point. So there it is. All right,
yeah.
Lisa, you have 5 points. Alex, you have 1. How many points would we like to wager for the bonus round?
All of them.
All of them. Okay, Alex.
None of them.
Okay, none of them. Okay, you can do that. Why not?
Yay!
right.
Classic tactics return.
This
So-
might
Let's go.
make you win. Yeah.
Okay, this is one case where you do in fact need to tell me the name of the actor,
Cool.
What?
but I think
On
both
it.
of you might know who this is.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
one of the flowers, one of the singing flowers,
Yeah.
was voiced by the same lady who provided the singing voices for Natalie Wood in West Side Story, Deborah Carr in The King and I, as well as Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady. She is a Hollywood icon. What is
I
her
need to-
name?
I
Wait,
need
what
to
character
know
did
her
she-
name?
What character in West Side Story did she?
She sang for Maria. She sang for Natalie Wood. So she like built her career going uncredited by singing for all these like A-list actresses who couldn't sing. And her whole selling point is that she had the ability to perfectly mimic people's voices. So she could sound like Deborah Carr. She could sound like Natalie Wood if those people could sing.
Okay, but do I need to know the actor's name, or can I just
Yeah.
say the character's name?
No. Wait,
I
which
didn't
character? I told you she played a rose or she played a flower in this movie and then she played
Oh,
yeah. So I need the lady. I need the actress.
that's not fair. I bet all my points. Oh,
And Alex
yeah.
bet none of them.
Yeah, so even if I get it wrong, I also win. We're good. I'm gonna win. Maybe, you know what? Clutch. Maybe there's a clutch moment.
Well, no, let's start. Well, let's good luck. Let's see. Let's check the answers. Anyone in the comments know?
Ugh.
Alex, do you know? I feel
I don't know.
okay.
There's no way that my answer's well, there is a way that my answer's correct, but it would be very surprising if it was correct. And I don't think it is correct.
Why?
It's
What's your answer? Just tell us.
it's Julie Andrews.
No, you're totally wrong. Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of reasons why it's not Julie Andrews,
Yeah,
including
no, it's-
that she's not like she doesn't have a reputation of mimicking people's voices, but
Yeah.
But the rose kind of sounds like Julie Andrews could do what the rose did.
Sure, she could, but she didn't.
Yeah.
Lisa, it all comes down to you. What's your?
Angela Lansbury.
That's a good guess.
Audra
Strong,
McDonald
no.
was another name that I was considering
Did
right.
you say Audra McDonald?
Yeah.
She wasn't even alive then.
How old do you think she is?
I don't know anything except her name and that she's a singer.
Get out of
She's
here.
also
And that
she's also won the most Tony Awards of any human being ever.
you know what? I'm happy for her.
You should be. She's incredible.
I'm gonna
We
celebrate
love
after
Audra.
this stream.
As you should.
right.
Celebrate by listening to Ragtime. She's the original Sarah.
I will
So good.
That's a good one.
not.
So good.
Like, oh my gosh, I love her. Anyway, we were looking for Marnie Nixon. We were looking for Marnie.
Oh yeah,
Never
Martin. No.
gotten
Yeah.
yeah.
No.
So, Alex, you won.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
No, you didn't. You know
I
what?
did.
This is
I
a
did.
conspiracy.
No,
Alex won.
No, I won.
Conspiracy.
You've been here before. This isn't exceptional. This is unprecedented. This is the way it happens. Every once in a while, the stars align, and I get a bit of, recognition for my hard work.
No, you
so
win on technical. I think you've.
Oh my God.
That's the only time you've ever won has been when you've budgeted your points in a semi-strategic way.
Maybe.
Like now, choosing to not bet any points.
You allowed it.
Well, I mean, statistically, Lisa won, but if there was prize money, Alex would be getting it. So, but there's not. So here we are. Vince doesn't know. I guess I need to do a video on Marnie Nixon.
Yeah.
She's
do it.
I love Marnie Nixon. I have a picture with her somewhere. Yeah.
Was she credited for her
No.
voice dubbing? Yeah, that's what I thought.
No.
She was.
I mean,
ghost
eventually,
singer.
like, they didn't go out of their way to keep it a secret. She just wasn't credited, and like this was pre-internet, obviously, and I guess it might have been in her contract that like you can't go to the papers and say whatever. But yeah, I have her autobiography, and just all of the actresses reacted very differently to working with her. So her first project was King and I, and Deborah Carr, or Kerr, I don't know how to say her last name, was totally game for it. She was like, I can't sing, but I want to do this role. You want me? Let's just make it work. Let's make the best movie we can. And like her collaborative experience with Deborah was very good, apparently, where like she would follow her around in the space so that she could see how Deborah's physical movements would affect the way she would be singing. And like she was like watching her mouth movements and just paying attention to how she carried her voice. And then You get to like Audrey Hepburn, who tried really hard to learn how to sing, but then she was really sad that she didn't sing well enough despite her best efforts. And then she was still very gracious and like, well, okay, if it needs to happen, it needs to happen. Thank you, Marnie. I'm sad. And Natalie Wood was apparently terrible.
Well, Natalie Wood, she had it coming.
Yeah.
She had it coming.
Coming. She had it coming. She only had herself to blame. If you
Maybe Mary, what's her
Marnie Nixon?
Maybe Marnie Nixon had something to do with her death on the boat with her husband and what's his name? Christopher Walken.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace, small child from Miracle on 34th Street. You're with Santa now.
You're with Santa now.
That is such a good movie. Oh my gosh. Original Miracle on 34th Street. So oh no.
Robert Wagner.
We're just all digging ourselves into holes on this episode.
Does everyone know about Natalie Wood's death?
Yeah, enough.
Because y'all should know that Christopher Walken and Robert
Killed
Wagner
somebody?
allegedly killed her.
Who's alleging that?
Well, I'm not gonna kill for saying Robert Wagner is a murderer.
Is that the same Robert Wagner from Into the Woods?
Outcome.
Or is that a different Robert Wagner?
I don't think like Robert Wagner that we're speaking of has worked in a while.
No, but original Broadway cast of Into the Woods, like 1987, 88. Robert Wagner was Rapunzel's prince, I think, and he was also the first. Oh no, that's Chuck Wagner. I'm thinking of Chuck Wagner. Never mind. Maybe related though. Maybe they're related.
Yeah.
So who knows? Anyway. Oh yeah, Alice in Wonderland. Closing thoughts.
Yeah, it was good. I'm glad I watched it. Love the length, and I would love to have one of those sweeper dogs.
Oh God.
Yeah,
like a Chester or whatever. Is that what it is?
Like
not
a
really
Roomba?
A Roomba? Yeah.
A Roomba
No, it's
dog?
like a
Yeah.
Chesterfield or whatever.
I want a dog that has a broom for a mouth and a tail. Yeah. Those are my thoughts. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Alex?
I think I could probably stand to watch the movie when I'm, more all together upstairs. And yeah.
Well said.
One last thought.
Yes.
Don't let kids do drugs.
No.
What if they're sick though?
Well, like ibuprofen.
Ibuprofen, cough syrup as recommended dosage on the bottle, not mushrooms. No psychedelics.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
No bottles marked drink me.
Yeah. No cookies that are just saying eat me viciously. Yeah, PSA. It's a good drug PSA.
Yeah.
Richard Nixon should have used it.
He's not a crook. Okay. And with that, time for everyone to say goodbye. Lisa, you start.
Thanks for having me on, Matt. I'm Lisa Alves. You can follow me on Instagram at Lisa_A_Alves, where I post about my hamsters and Toronto theater. And you can also follow my crochet and knitting business at Lisa Alves Creations on Instagram as well. You can see me here next week, folks. Bye.
Woo! Bye, Lisa.
I think I might have said crochet instead of croquet. But
no, you said
not.
croquet.
Okay. That okay. I am Christian Alexander Titai, but you can call me Alex. And this has been the Tea Cup for One. How do I end?
No, don't take my thing away from me, Alex. All right, if you're watching, this is my channel. Thank you for sticking with us. All 5 of you, at least 3 of you are in the room down the hall. So thank you, Mother and Cats, and the other 2, Vince, plus whoever the other one is. Thank you for sticking with us. Join us next week. We are going to be discussing, I don't even know what the movie's called. I know it is a semi-terrifying looking European version of Alice in Wonderland that is mostly stop motion animation and is like 1 degree away from being a silent film. I cannot wait. So join us for that. And to clarify, I love Uncle Max as a character, but I don't at all agree with his political associations in the musical. It's toned down in the movie. I think the performer did a good job, and Uncle Max is just, how can you not love Uncle Max? Elsa, however, Georg dodged a bullet with that marriage. That's what I have to say there. Anyway, with that, friends, thank you so much. My name is Matt, and I have 2 degrees, and this has been the Tea Cup for One. Hold on. Alex, say it with me.
How do I end this?